Now, this morning, we want to take you live to Labadi Beach Hotel, where we have the graphic business Stanbic Bank breakfast meeting ongoing. This episode features Professor Kessa Quist Apache, Chair, National Cyber Intelligence and Cyber Defense Research Project, and Professor Francis Achu, he's Financial Risk Manager, Sustainability Climate Risk Professional and Farmer, as well as Alberta Nana Echan Akosa. She's founder, Agri-House Foundation. On the theme for today, Future of Food, the critical place of sustainable practices. Let's take you there now to follow the conversation.
Come to this morning's edition. That is the graphic business breakfast meeting where we will be discussing the future of food here at the Labadi Beach Hotel, and they are the major sponsors. And today the theme is going to be on the future of food, the critical place of sustainable practices. We will also delve deeper to understand of our food security over the years. Last year, we understood that there were issues that had to do with as to how we can ensure supply of food to the latter south. And a lot of conversation from the many government programs that were meant to accelerate sustainable food supply in key institutions in the country, and also to bring the prices of commodities higher. We sustained inflation as high as 54% over the years, and we've seen it coming down. But whether the prices are coming down based on seasonal supply of certain commodities is what we will be discussing, going deeper in this conversation. Today's program is brought to you by kind courtesy of Joe News, graphic business, Labadi Beach Hotel, and we will ensure to make this conversation as simple as possible. You can also join us on the Facebook page of Stanbic Bank, and you ensure to be part of this conversation. We'll delve deeper in a subsequent big dialogue where my big boss, Winston Amwa, will be taking over after the preliminary discussion, after I've had this conversation with my panelists who are already seated right now. So let me first introduce my panelists. I have been privileged to be joined by the head of agribusiness at Stanbic Bank in the person of Mr. Samuel Okamboy, who is on my far left, my immediate left. I'll be joined by the president of the Ghana Hotels Association, Dr. Edward Akanyameke Jr. Gentlemen, good morning. It's good to have you.
Thank you very much, Vincent. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Let me start with the agric man himself, Mr. Samuel. It appears, what do you make of Ghana's assessment, especially we've seen, when we talk about growth, we've seen services sector, industry, mining and quarrying, but little have been said about the outlook of agric, although there have been several programs to help champion the growth of the agric sector. What do you say has been the key fallout for us as a nation?
Thank you so much, Winston. So I'm particularly excited, and from Stanbic's standpoint, we believe that we can do so much more in terms of driving growth by powering the businesses in the agriculture sector, not just throwing money at them, but ensuring that we are also underpinning what they are doing with a lot of rich sector expertise and advisory. As you know, agriculture continues to play a very significant role in our economy, providing for over 22% of our GDP, employing in the rural areas over 75% of our rural folks. But the challenge is that we can't continue our traditional, conventional, rain-fed production systems. More than 90% of our farms are reliant on rainfall. And for us to be able to pivot into becoming the breadbasket of the region, we should be able to look at cutting-edge technologies like irrigation. We should be thinking more long-term in improving our storage infrastructure and embedding sustainable practices that can transform us. We are still importing well over 50% of our food. Last year, for example, we spent nearly 40 billion Ghana cedis importing basic foods like rice, poultry, oil, and wheat, which we can easily produce, not easily, but we can, with a plan, be able to produce locally and then bridge that gap. And so to have a long-term view and the role of financial institution is quite critical in this conversation.
Well said. Before I come to Mr. Nyameke, I want to understand the business of agriculture. Is it that we've not gotten to the point where we can say we are ensuring that most farmers understand the business of agri, not just harvest, sell, but harvest, sell, and show there is continuation. You mentioned cat and egg technology, but it appears that still there's a localized structure in most of the communities where farming strategically positioned to be well advanced.
Sure, absolutely. That's one of the very fundamental reasons our farmers, typically when we say a farmer in Ghana, perhaps you and I, and even the youth today will look at the poor person who would have to go into the farm and labor, be in a very intense, another the element of the weather. But elsewhere, when we talk of the farmer, your view and picture in mind about who a farmer is really that rich guy who has some horses, who can go in there and can afford what they are looking for to invest in that business. That is where I personally would like us to see as youth, talking about a farmer, it becomes a very prestigious, admirable profession that we can look up to. So that fundamental understanding about who the farmer is and its contribution or their contribution to our economy needs to shift. And I believe that those of us in the financial institutions or play in that sector where we can inspire the younger generation to look up to agriculture as something they can aspire to and have a very meaningful livelihood coming out of, will be something that will be a good path to look, to ride on. I believe policy can play a role, education can play a role, but more importantly, technology. I want to center on the fact that we can't continue doing the same old, things and expect a very significant shift of the dial where we want agriculture to be as a country.
Well said very much, Mr. Samuel. And I want to bring Dr. Edward in the conversation. If you look at the Hotels Association, you play a critical role in the value chain of the hotel, of the farm. Why is it that most of our menus happen to have a lot of foreign induced products, basically, without necessarily getting them into the market? Before I get to that question, there was one farmer in Ghana who produces local rice. I had an interaction with him. He changed his rice into a foreign bag. It's not the type of rice, but the bag, the packaging. And he gave it to, he said, "Wait, just observe something." The person went to prepare the food using the local rice in a foreign bag. And he came out to say the food was tasting better than it is. And I thought, this is the same food, but the perception has changed. And I was wondering, what is the difference? What are we not doing right?
Well, Winston, you see, there's a certain element of demand and supply.
Yes.
In what we cook or get our customers to have at the hotels. I indicated earlier on that this is a global business and you have all kinds of people coming to your facility. It is what they want to eat, okay, that you will ultimately provide. However, I also agree with you that sometimes we need to deliberately also get people to like what we have locally. And that's where some of the hotels are coming in to find ways to change the preferences of the customers with regards to what is available locally. And I'd like to say kudos to the Ghana Tourism Authority for the Ghana Month, which is celebrated in March, because that is a month where the hotels are encouraged to produce local foods for the customers and then find a way for them to enjoy it and then sustain their interest. But it doesn't come that easy. It doesn't come that easy because sometimes the customers also dictate.
With that particular Ghana month, why don't you propose to the Tourism Authority to do it every week in a month? Because just 1 month in a year seems to be quite limited. What do you say?
Well, in the same way, there are a lot of other activities that you would want to also focus on. I mean, talk about festivals, talk about the other things that the authority will be focusing on. And that is why March has its focus on our local culture and our foods. However, it doesn't end there because with some of the hotels, when they introduce a new menu, locally produced menu in March, it is kept on throughout the year and then becomes part of their menu. So in that sense, I think we are making some progress.
Okay.
But again, demand and supply, and also the issue about policy also comes in. I mean, the Nigerian example you gave was a matter of policy that was driven by governments. Okay, so if government should also drive some of these policies here, the hotels will have no choice but to follow those policies.
All right, let me bring Mr. Samuel into the conversation. We have looked at the whole farming, and now I want us to understand the economic outlook of how farmers perform. In what state will you say the economic has to perform for us to say farmers will feel the trickle-down impact? What are the conditions that will accelerate the growth in the agri sector?
Okay, all right. So I wanted to quickly contribute to the conversation about raising the interest. I hope I can be heard. The interest of patronizing our locally produced food. And I believe that one of the quick ways that government or public sector should consider driving this buy-in is clear engagement with the private sector themselves, so that there will be a lot of cohesion and collaboration with private sector. And I believe that if the bearers of duty and the owners of these policies are willing to run with them, then there will be a lot of traction at the ground level or on the ground. So that is a very critical element of making sure that we have our local foods becoming very attractive. And then finally on that, packaging. Obviously, when you get into the shopping centers, packaging is one of the things that really attracts you. And to your question about to what scale do we expect agriculture to grow, to become a significant contributor to the economy, I would go back to the basic of saying that there's still a mindset of doing agriculture as a way of life and a practice. The element of doing it as a business for a good return is still lacking. And so it is critical to be able to address that fundamental flaw of viewing the enterprise as just a subsistence or a means of keeping your household. Versus if you look at the tree crops, for example, it's a very huge sector that once it is driven to the scale that we have seen cocoa succeed, we can do more and we can harness a lot more from those value chains.
Thank you very much, Head of Agribusiness at Stanbic Bank, Mr. Samuel Okamboy. And also I was joined by Dr. Edward Aka-Nyamike Jr., the President of the Ghana Hotels Association. We had this conversation that I'm sure is going to continue, and standing by with, my name is Winston Taki, standing by is Winston Amwa, who is going to go into the plenary session where we'll go deeper into today's conversation. And Winston, I'm sure this is going to be another breakthrough session, and you can take over from here now.
Thank you very much, Winston Taki, and good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for making time to join us this morning for the Graphic Business Stanbic Bank breakfast meeting. And our focus is on food, because we all do believe that food is essential for everything that we do in a country whose food inflation consistently has been high, and as a result, the driver of high inflation. It's important we tackle food. So today our conversation is about the future of food, the critical place of sustainable practices. My name is Winston Amwa, and I'll continue from where Winston Taki left it. We'll continue by inviting the editor of Graphic Business, Suleiman Mustafa, to give us the welcome address. Let's welcome Suleiman Mustafa with a round of applause as he gives us the welcome address. Thank you, Winston. Hi, good morning. On behalf of the board, management, and staff of the Graphic Communication Group, I welcome you all to the second Graphic Business and Stanbic Bank breakfast meeting today. As a premier media brand in Ghana, Graphic Communications Group has consistently provided a platform for informed discourse, knowledge sharing, and accurate information dissemination. Our commitment to national development is exemplified through initiatives like the Graphic Business Breakfast Meeting, which began in 2014 with a thought-provoking discussion on the state of the economy. Today's breakfast meeting themed Future of Food
the critical place of sustainable practices is particularly timely because Ghana's agricultural sector is the backbone of our economy, employing over 40% of the workforce and contributing significantly to the GDP. However, the sector faces numerous challenges, including climate change, limited access to finance, inefficient practices, and inadequate infrastructure. The theme of sustainable practices is crucial in addressing these challenges. Sustainable agriculture is not just about environmental conservation, it is also about ensuring food security, promoting economic growth, and improving the livelihood of farmers and rural communities. We are honored to have esteemed lead discussants who will share their expertise and insights. Professor Kester Quist Afechi, who is the chair of the National Cyber Intelligence and Cyber Defense Research Project, will explore the role of technology in enhancing agricultural productivity and efficiency. Alberta Nana Echa Akosa, founder of AgriHouse Foundation, will also share her experiences and insights on promoting sustainable agricultural practices and supporting smallholder farmers. Professor Francis Achu, financial risk manager, sustainability climate risk professional, and farmer, will discuss the financial and climate risk implications of sustainable agriculture and potential solutions. Through this meeting, we aim to explore innovative solutions that can drive sustainable agricultural practices, enhance productivity, and economic growth. The outcome of our discussions will provide valuable insight for policymakers, farmers, industry stakeholders, ultimately contributing to a more resilient and sustainable food system. Our partnership with Stanbic Bank underscores the importance of collaboration in driving meaningful change. By leveraging expertise, resources, and technology, we can unlock opportunities for Ghana's agricultural sector and promote sustainable development. Our deliberations today will focus on practical solutions, including 1, leveraging technology to enhance agricultural productivity and efficiency. 2, promoting sustainable practices that mitigate climate change impacts. 3, improving access to finance and market for farmers. By sharing knowledge, experiences, and best practices, we can reshape Ghana's agricultural landscape and create a brighter future for our citizens. As a media house, Graphic Business, in partnership with Stanbic Bank Ghana, is committed to providing sustained advocacy on the outcomes of this breakfast meeting. We will leverage our platforms to disseminate key findings and recommendations to stakeholders, influence policy decisions that support sustainable agriculture, foster collaborations and resource mobilization for agricultural development, monitor progress and provide feedback to ensure implementation of recommendations. Through this sustained advocacy, we aim to contribute to a comprehensive and inclusive national agricultural sector plan that promotes sustainable development, enhance food security, and support economic growth. Ultimately, our goal is to ensure that Ghana's agricultural sector becomes a driver of economic growth, food security, and sustainable development, and improving the livelihood of all Ghanaians. With that, I welcome you all to the Graphic Business Stanbic Bank breakfast meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Suleiman Mustafa, who's editor of the Graphic Business. Would now invite the Chief Executive of Stanbic Bank, Kwame Nasumening, to give us his opening remarks. Let's welcome him with a round of applause.
Distinguished guests, honored partners, the Graphic Communications Group, Multimedia Limited, and Labadi Beach Hotel. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is with great gratitude and a deep sense of urgency that I welcome you to this all-important gathering. Today's theme, the future of food, the critical place of sustainable practices, is not just timely, it is essential. In alignment with the UN Sustainable Development Goal number 2, Zero Hunger, this is a call to action for all of us working across Ghana's food ecosystem. We meet at a critical juncture in Ghana's development journey, especially in agriculture, which remains both a pillar of our economy and a foundation of our national food security. Ghana is a country of immense promise, rich in arable land, abundant water resources, strong farming traditions, and the resilience of its people. From the cocoa farms of Seshirioso to the rice valleys of the northern region, from fishing communities along the Volta Lake to vegetable farms on the outskirts of Accra, we see both extraordinary potential and deep pressure. That pressure is perhaps most visible in the cost of food today. Let us be clear, the single biggest driver of Ghana's overall inflation is food inflation. As of March 2025, food inflation stands at 26.5, far outpacing core inflation. According to the World Bank's February 2025 Food Security Update, Ghana had the highest food inflation rate among lower middle income countries in Africa, reaching 27.8 in December 2024. This is not just a statistic, it reflects a daily struggle for families across the country. Staple foods, maize, tomatoes, onions, gari, have more than doubled in price in recent years. Families are adjusting not just how they spend, but how they eat. Protein is disappearing from dinner plates. Nutritional gaps are widening. The affordability of food has become a major threat to well-being. But this is not just an economic crisis. It is a structural and sustainability crisis. When the cost of food consistently outpaces incomes, we must ask, what is broken in the food system? What is broken in the system that grows, stores, moves, and markets our food? The truth is, Ghana's food systems are deeply vulnerable. Over 80% of our farmers are smallholders, many without access to modern tools or to financing. Only 3% of our cultivated land, and this is an estimate, is irrigated, leaving our food production highly dependent on increasingly erratic rainfall. And due to poor storage, transport, and processing infrastructure, up to 30% of our food is lost after harvest, food that could feed millions. The weaknesses in our agriculture value chain have real economic consequences. High inflation continues to have damaging effects on Ghana's economy, institutions, and citizens. It erodes purchasing power, reduces savings, creates business uncertainty, and drives up interest rates. It also fuels currency depreciation, worsens income inequality, and puts immense strain on public finances. And as we've seen, food prices sit at the very heart of this inflationary pressure. This is why the future of food must be linked to sustainable systemic reform. And it is why today's conversation is so important. What might this future look like? Could improving rural storage and cold chain infrastructure help reduce the billions we lose each year in post-harvest losses and lower prices for consumers? Might scaling up irrigation protect farmers and markets from climate shocks? could targeted financing and innovation help smallholder farmers adopt more productive, climate-smart methods? What roles can government policy, agri-tech, private investment, and consumer behavior each play in creating a more resilient food system? These are real difficult questions we must confront. I certainly don't claim to have all the answers, but I believe that the expertise and insight in this room can help us begin to chart a sustainable and inclusive path forward. I'd like to end with an Akan proverb, and I'm not sure if it's fancy or it's true, but let me give it a try. What is Abufaba Ankunswa, Obetinin Sukom Ntem? To wit, if a child refuses to fetch water, he or she will soon feel the thirst. In conclusion, I would say that if we fail to act, if we do not rethink and restructure our food systems today, the hunger and inflation of tomorrow would become even more severe. Let us seize this moment. Let us ask the hard questions, and let us build a food system that not only feeds our people, but does so sustainably, affordably, and equitably for generations to come. Thank you, and I look forward to the panel discussion and the insights to follow. Thank you.
Well, we can definitely do better. Thank you very much, Kwamina. And certainly that proverb was in fancy, so. But I like the fact that you talk about all the challenges that face agricultural sector. As a farmer myself, I know these problems. And the challenges that consistently we've talked about these, but little has been done. So I'm happy we're having this conversation. You've talked about issues of irrigation, but also most importantly is issues of land preparation. Now, we have a lot of smallholder farmers because we just cannot afford to cultivate in a large scale. Imagine having to prepare acres, hundreds of acres of land. If you're not well resourced, you just cannot do that. And that's why in the past we had conversations about the role that institutions could play, how institutions could actually take these lands, prepare them, and lease them to farmers. So you lease it over a period, say 1 year, 2 years, you pay something small, you cultivate, and then you move on. I'm happy that even as we talk about this, there's the Economic Enclave Project, which is a sign that if we are serious, we can do that. So thank you very much, Kwamina, for setting the tone, which means that we can now get into the discussion. And today we have two professors joining the conversation. And I'll start with the chair of the National Cyber Intelligence and Cyber Defense Research Project, Professor Kester Quist Afechi. Let's welcome him with a round of applause as he joins us here. Our next panelist is the founder of AgriHouse Foundation, Alberta Nana Echan Akosa. Let's welcome her with a round of applause. And our last panelist is a financial risk manager, sustainability climate risk professional, and also a farmer, Professor Francis Achu. Let's welcome him with a round of applause. So this is how we're going to go about it today, okay? They're going to be speaking on specific issues, and once they are done, I'll ask a question or two. The focus is not me, but the focus is you, because we need to have a conversation. And as Kwamina said, the aim of this is to find solutions to the problems. We don't want it to be a talk shop, okay? We want to find solutions to the problems. So we leave here knowing that these are the things that we must do. So, Professor Francis Achu, I'd like to start off with you. While you're seated, please don't come here, to have a conversation on sustainable food systems and supply chain. So just pick your microphone and tell us more about that, and I'd follow up with 1 or 2 questions before we move to the other panelists, and then open the floor for more questions. We've learned from feedback from over the quarters that you don't have a lot of time for questions from our participants in here. So today, we'll make sure that you have a lot of time for the questions. So over to you, Professor Achu.
All right, so thank you very much, colleagues, and then bosses here. Thank you, Stanbic Bank, Graphic Business, for inviting me to be part of this panel to talk on issues on innovative farming within the scope of sustainable challenges. And I also want to, us together, let us also thank those who are also watching us. And I want to admonish them to glue to their TVs or any medium because of the importance of this. And even just reflect what you've eaten, you don't know where it's coming from. So what I want us basically to be able to understand, when we reflect, look at the current trend, you will basically see that food systems in Ghana, in the globe, are under serious threat. Look at the case of Ghana, Galamsey, land degradation. Look at geopolitics. Look at Uncle Trump, where most of our funding, when it comes to agribusiness or agriculture in this country, are donor funded. Also look at what extreme weather conditions and the whole situation has been exacerbated by what? By climate change. So within this context, I want us to understand that whether we like it or not, our traditional or conventional farming cannot sustain this country if we want to actually achieve that level of food security. So now, what is the way out? Sustainability is to our rescue. Before I advance my conversation, I want us to basically put this in perspective. I want to introduce you to an idea that I would say a borrowed concept or framework I normally use within agribusiness. We call it clues. The clues is C-L-E-W small s. Clues, capital C-L-E-W-S. The C is climate change. The L is land or related land use. The E, capital E, is energy or energy-related issues. W is water systems. Now, tell me, any farming practice, be it conventional, sustainable, these three integrated systems, tell me, we use water on our farms, energy-related on our farms, and land use. They are integrated. The way we are going to deploy these three integrated systems would impact on climate. If I should be running, let's say maybe a diesel-powered plant on my farm, look at the fumes. What is happening to the climate? The fumes also happen to that. Distortion of what? Of ecosystem. Now, the water systems, if we don't use the water systems properly, what do you think will happen to us? We are also what? In a very big issue. So in this context, these three integrated systems are vulnerable to climate. Now, when these three also impact on climate, they will turn around and also impact on us. Now, look at climate-induced drought. Look at most rivers. So if we understand this concept, whatever we talk about, be it conventional farming, be it sustainable farming, these three must be the bedrock of all our discussions. Now, let me now proceed. I want to now make a very strong case why we need a very strong transitioning into what? Into sustainable farming. Look, most of us here, we apply fertilizers. Do you know the consequence of fertilizers? They run into our water bodies. What happens to us? They go in there to actually induce the growth of invasive species. Most of the waters, rivers have been rendered what? Dead. We say what? They are what? Stranded. That is one. Pesticides. We keep on spraying for pesticides. What happens? Excessive pesticides basically has destroyed a lot of what? A lot of, let's say, the ecosystem what? Structure. Now, that's one thing. Even with the pesticides, I was wondering, somebody asked this morning, so my professor said, oh, can I get pure fruit juice? I laughed. I said, can you get pure fruit juice? Look at the kinds of chemicals we applied on our foods. So as you are seated here, whatever you eat, there may be some that kind of residuals in them. So do you see that? Another thing I also want to lay to understand is that the way we even prepare land is a very big issue. Conventionally, we keep on tilling, we turn it this way, tomorrow we'll do it this way. What are the effects? Look, do you even know that some of these chemicals we even apply, some of them even tend to even induce more, like they increase lead in the system, leading to what? Too low photosynthesis, leading to low yield. And when the low yield, what is the effect? Economic impact on us. Now tell me a bag of fertilizer. Tell me a box of chemicals. So with all these things, and I don't even consider so much on the cost. In terms of health, most of us are going through various health challenges, not because that we are not living good, but because of the kinds of food that we eat. Take galamsey. You may think galamsey is somewhere else. You know, most foods that we eat are coming from those enclaves. Most of us, we like achwabwa, you know achwabwa, like grass cutter. You know, they drink water. Most of these lead polluted water, they drink. Then they kill this achwabwa, bring it here. Oh, antifati, maybe difufu ni achwabwa na krantenam. Look at what you're doing to yourself. With all these things, ladies and gentlemen, whether we like it or not, look, conventional farming is not something we should joke with it. So, sustainable farming within the scope of what innovative farming practices is not an option. It is the way for us to be able to survive. We want to be able to understand that. Now, to be able to, I've now made a case why we should transition. Now, to be able to transition, we have to basically adopt what we call the global scope of what? Of organic farming within the scope of what? Sustainability. When I say the broader scope of organic farming, we have two main flavors. We have the modern organic farming that also what? Natural farming. When I say the modern organic farming, basically means that the conventional farming where we use chemicals and others will be replaced by what? Certified organic inputs. Now, when we say natural farming, what are we referring to? That one basically like we can use like cow dung, other things. So that one, we don't necessarily need to use what? Certified organic inputs. These two flavors, basically, they have serious financial ramifications on we, the farmers, and even the economy. Look at the cost of organic inputs. If you want to go through the path of organic farming, I was discussing with the prof, then please develop a premium market. Don't just go into organic farming thinking that, oh, you go to Agboburoshi to go and then sell the same. Because the cost of production will not basically allow you to be competing within the same market at that lower prices. That is one. Now, when we come to the natural farming, where we can maybe do a bit of integrate farming with some kind of maybe extract from plants, maybe animals, those kind of things, that one can be very helpful sustainably, but let's also be very, very careful the kind of the so-called input or organic farming. Now, having made this whole case for you to understand that, look, we have no choice to transition from where? From unsustainable farming practices to sustainability. So what is to our rescue? We have to adopt what they call the broader scope of organic farming with two main flavors, the modern organic farming and also and also natural farming. All that we are doing should be within the scope of this framework I am proposing. It is a borrowed framework. I do a lot of modeling. We call it the clues. Now, with all that said, now, what are some of the practices I'm going to now maybe propose here? The first thing I want to propose, we are within now the era of climate change, is what they call climate resilient or climate smart water farming. Now, one, let's be careful the kind of input we adopt. Some inputs, maybe some kind of seeds or some kind of planting materials are climate resilient. So don't just jump in out there that I'm going to look for inputs. This morning I was discussing with the Prof. Don't just look out for that input. Look for those inputs that are what climate resilient. That is one. Then two, in terms of, you also look for early yielding materials. But even before then, I want us to also now adopt the habit of harvesting rain. Where to even situate your farm, there should be a good source of water. Without water, forget. You know, some years ago, I was reading through the Bible, Jeremiah 17, verse 5 up to somewhere 8. He said, blessed is the man who will put his trust in God. He shall be like a tree planted by the waters, and even in drought, it will not feel anything. It will be hot. It will be bearing fruit. With farming, the framework I offered, whether you like it or not, without water, no farming. The next thing is that, please, for you to be sustainable, I am going to propose that we adopt organic or natural farming. The two are the main flavors of what? The broader scope of what? Of organic what? Farming. Now, stop the idea of these synthetic what? Chemicals. It will not help you. Thinking, oh, my land is no more fertile, I'm going to pump in fertilizers and other chemicals to boost the fertility. You know what? Some of these chemicals have a life about 5 years residual in what? In the land. You apply fertilizer today, it will take a minimum of 5 years for that residual effect to be wiped off. I want you to understand that. The next thing I want us to do is what we call the agro-farming kind of business. I was discussing that with Farmer Morrison, where you can plant some kind of trees in the farm. They are very good to help you with one, carbon sequestration, two, to improve soil fertility. A plant I want to introduce you today is what we call moringa. Look, it is what? A wonderful tree. When you plant moringa, especially, one, not all, at least in your farm, at the end of the day, they can fix nitrogen. They can improve soil fertility. They can also help out ecosystem. Somebody will wonder, why are you talking about biodiversity, ecosystem, those kind of things? Do you know that most of our crops that we plant are purely what? They are purely pollinator-dependent crops. Look at Ghana. Do you know the 2023-2024, we couldn't supply up to about 200 and something thousand tons of cocoa because of what? A sharp decline in what? Pollinators of cocoa. We call them midges, or the full name is Pomia midges. Look, Galamsey has actually caused decline in that. Also, the way we are destroying ecosystem habitat has also destroyed in that. So it basically means that whatever we do, the chemicals that we use would actually reduce or drive down the population of these midges. That's one thing we also need to understand. Now, ladies and gentlemen, because of time, if you cannot do this, I want to propose two natural farming methods to you. Just go and read it to help you. The first one is what we call the Jadam natural farming by Young Sang Cho, South Korea. Very solid, where you have the opportunity to prepare most farming input on the farm. So meaning a very low cost. That one is more or less plant-based, and it's very, very powerful. The next one is what? The zero budget, which is by Sabash Paleka. That one, you will depend more on animals. You know that cow urine, very excellent. Cow dung, very excellent. Chicken droppings, very excellent. But the way we prepare, we process it before applying, plays a very crucial role. Another thing I want us to also understand is that you cannot now do farming without technology. Without what? Technology. Look, there are now services where you can just pay a token. They can tell you the weather pattern. Oh, today is your better, or is your this and that. When I even met Prof, we were talking, I was so amazed the way he's using technology to be able to power. Now, the next thing I want you to also be concerned is security on our farms. Look, as I sit here, I'm a farmer. If I tell you what farming has done to me, farming has slapped the hell out of me. If I tell you, look, an example, I have about 2.5 acres of coconut tree at Chamante. Look, having invested so much, I planted coconut, I planted mango, I planted pomegranate, I planted jackfruit, I planted sweet sour, sour soap, I planted oranges, tangerine, lemon, and then lime. When the whole thing started fruiting, they will go behind you to go and win some. So one thing I'm going to advise, if you want to go into farming, make sure that where you have very good sand, please, I run a cry here, never do that. Because you would outlay all your investment in that. That at the end of the day, they'll turn around and do what? And then go and win the sand. You know, I've left the place about 2 years. Just after that, I went recently, I saw a bit of rejuvenation. After clearing, somebody went and set fire and burned a certain number. So security is a very key thing. Okay. Another thing I would advise you, please, a minute. Another advice is that absentee farming, if you are seated here and you want to be an absentee farmer, don't start it. So please, I'll end by saying that absentee farming is no. Let's all say absentee farming, no. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Francis Achu. You know, you make a lot of great points. So let me just do this before I get to Professor Apechi. So you say fertilizer, no. You say, I mean, we should go organic, right? Yes. Okay. So let's say I want to plant maize, for instance. And instead of going to buy these chemicals that you say is going to destroy the land, what do I do? You've talked about what? Cow dung, urine. How do I apply these? I mean, simply help us understand.
Okay, so let's say you are a maize farmer, you want to now on a plant. One thing I would advise, I should have added to my submission, is that testing of land is very, very key. Know the nutritional content of the land before you go into that. Now, when you are a maize farmer, you ask yourself, do I want to go through the organic way? I want to go through the natural farming way. If it's organic way, then after the land has been tested, at least they will advise you that, oh, okay, this land is deficient of this. So in that case, you can buy organic inputs to do that. If you want to go through the natural way, if you take chicken droppings, very high in nitrogen for growth, for let's say the forage, what you need to do is that don't apply the raw chicken droppings. Let it rot. So when it is rotting, no, that decay releases a lot of chemicals and heat. Let it rot a bit. After rotting, don't just apply it close. What you do is that I would advise, if it's possible, try to be able to, first of all, sprinkle around, let it rot. When you are done, then you can now prepare the land and then plant. I would advise burning, if it's a forest, burning should be the last resort. Don't burn unnecessary things on your farm. So when I'm walking around Ghana here, you see people burning things unnecessarily, my heart bleeds. Don't burn. So you do that. Another option could also be this. If you plant the maize, try to plant some key trees within the farm to fix the nitrogen. Moringa is very, very powerful doing that. Moringa very powerful in doing that. Do you even know that after doing that, it will help you to fix nitrogen, improve the soil fertility, because the leaves are so nutritious. When you also do that, the seeds can also help you to be able to do what? To purify water. Do you know that?
Okay.
Yes,
now, great. Finally, I don't want to ask a lot of questions. I'll leave it for our participants here. You talked about land preparation, and I've said that we don't do it well.
Yeah.
How should we do it?
Okay. You see, when we say land preparation, at least there should be some kind of precondition before land preparation. I will prefer land choice preparation. The location of a land should play a very key role. So are you going to go purely savanna land? Are you going to go purely forest land? Are you going to go, let's say, maybe a mix of that? So in terms of the land preparation, it also depends upon the number of acreage you are going to go in. If it's, let's say maybe purely, let's say, like the northern part where, we can do a bit of plowing. Don't just let nobody do the ordinary plowing for you. There are some specialized ones. The plowing is not all that deep, meaning it doesn't actually distort the structure of the soil. That is one. If it is the case of forest, you don't even need to do plowing. What basically you need to do is that, some trees, you need to at least be able to, the way you prepare, you don't, it depends. If it's, let's say, a champon, if it be very good, try to uproot, a champon, like the roots. The root can so much damage. The last thing I want to also basically talk is that we have a process called no-tilling. No-tilling basically means that we are not going to distort the land. As the land is, we just clear the top, let the residue be on the land, serve as what? As, let's say, cover mulching, and also rot to give what? To give manure. So thank you very much. Maybe if I've not answered it properly.
Well, I think you've answered. Thank you very much, Professor Francis Atru. So we'll move to Professor Quist Apechi Kester, who will be talking about food data, technology, and digitalization. So let's welcome him also, and after that I'll ask a question or two, and then we'll move on to Nene Chan.
Okay, thank you very much. So let me move into the future, maybe 100 years from now, and then bring you back again. I think that will help a lot. My area of specialty is within the defense sector and then intelligence. And, challenges that are solved within these sectors have a lot of benefit in terms of the civil sector. For example, the mobile phone that you are using to communication within the defense space, security, banking, all those things happened a lot over there. Even though the future, maybe beyond 100 years, will not reflect some of the reasons, because machines will play a critical role in those sectors. These challenges help us in order to have an understanding of how we can prepare for the future of agriculture. One of the challenges we face is that, besides the technical one, which I'll come to, our land resources are reducing every single day. Population is increasing. When you look at Ghana, everybody wants to build. Farmlands and other lands are being used for agriculture, and climate change activities poses a lot of challenges. And we have to learn to survive within this space. So precision has become the order of the day that gives us that challenge. So 100 years onwards, we would like to know, if you eat a particular food, what will happen to you? And for us to achieve this, we have 3 emerging sectors that is governing that space within the space of the earth. Because even if you go beyond, outside the earth, there are other challenges that is being looked at. For example, how can we farm in outer space in such a way that the resources that are limited there can be reused in order to achieve the good output of food that we need for the human body? Okay, so if we move into the precision space in terms of what we need to eat. Now, precision agriculture, precision medicine, it's key. For example, the food that you have eaten, which percentage will be positive to your system and which percentage won't be positive to your system? You don't know. Sometimes you eat it and have this effect. Your tongue can be giving you an information in terms of how you are enjoying the food, but your system, in terms of absorbing and processing this food, you might not know. So in the future, there will be sensors based on connectivity, artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity within our human bodies that will communicate with other external systems in terms of, if you eat this particular amount, what will happen to you. So there will be that predictability for you to be advised as to which quantity you have to take. Likewise, also how medicine is applied to one person to the other. 2 people can suffer from malaria drug, but there is a dosage that one person can take, the other one cannot take, based on how the system can absorb it. These are the things that influence and challenge us within the space of precision medicine. And the same thing boils down to precision agriculture in terms of using resources, optimizing them for plants, and also understanding the final output of the plant, okay, or the animal or the wherever, and then how it also moves through the various chains in terms of storage. Within the storage itself, you have to monitor the conditions of the storage, to know the state of the food till it gets to the consumption phase and how it moves through the body and stuff like that. So that is how the future connectivity and space and other things is going to be like 100 years and beyond. And these things will be handled by artificial intelligence systems and then machines that exist within our bodies. So in looking at some of these things and where we are currently, in terms of the land not being a lot and stuff like that, you realize that there are various farming approaches that are coming, that computers are helping us understand how we can optimize conditions around plants and stuff like that. Because within the food sector, either you adapt what you are looking at, or you adapt the environment in order to achieve what you want. What do I mean? You can plant something, but the conditions around it might not be good. So you can create the condition, like how people have greenhouse farming, where they create the condition for the plant, maintaining the structure of the plant. You can also change the characteristics of the plant so that it can be adaptive in an environment which it will find it difficult to perform, and also adapt to climate change activities. So these approaches and challenges that we face every day puts it in position where we have to choose best approaches in terms of farming. So, and also resource optimization. Currently, we have a lot of drip irrigation activities going on in terms of optimizing water usage. Whether you are doing natural farming, organic farming, or inorganic farming, you still have to learn how to use those resources effectively. Because if you put in too much fertilizer or whatever into the soil, the effect and then the spread can also, you can estimate that. So precision in everything we do is the bedrock of farming today and then beyond. Then sustainability is what should govern around it in terms of how you can sustain that approach of farming. And in order to do this, technology must come in to guide us achieve these results. That is where we engage sensors and other computing approaches to help us understand what we do in the farm. So we have drones, we have other forms of robotic systems and other things that are ongoing. And it will fascinate you that some of these things are being done here. I led a team that we use computers to grow crops at areas that you think that crops will not grow. And some of this inspiration we drew when I was consulting for the Israeli government. I was in Israel several times within the defense sector. Then you realize they apply some of this precision agriculture, and then their environment is very harsh in terms of crop growth, but now they are one of the leading countries in terms of agri-tech and also precision agriculture. So I said, okay, then we can also use any soil around ourselves, adapt it in order to achieve our goals. But in order to really understand the condition, I engage my students where we grow these foodstuffs in sack, the 1 cedi bag. So in that case, we are able to use computers to guide the resources that goes to the plant and also manage it. But the beautiful thing is that we use leaves and other organic stuff to support the plants to achieve very high yield. And it can be done in urban farming and other technologies. And we use computers to actually guide us and even understand climate situations and help adapt the conditions of the environment of the plants. In this case, we've not touched the plants, but we just decided to use the computers to govern the conditions within the environment. And then we're able to get very high yield within a very small space. So technology has a key role to play, and it will continue to change the landscape of how we do farming, and that is where the focus will be. But what can we also do here? When we talk about technology, we can also develop our own approaches. Okay, so for example, with the military, where we train them in how to use sensors and other things to do things here in Ghana, we decided also to experiment and practicalize some of these things in precision agriculture. So in 2-3 years to come, if you see the GAF-C and also the signal unit developing and showcasing their precision agriculture, you should know that it has been a journey so far. I mean the Ghana Armed Forces. So these are some of the things that we can also do in order to contribute. And we can develop these technologies locally without actually looking for other external, because our conditions are different from their conditions, and we have to understand our environment and develop the technologies that we have to build in order to preserve our food. Even whether it's in a rural area, you don't have to think of how you can send maybe some complex technology there. We have to learn to develop our own technology that can be used to preserve these foods to a particular degree. And also, I will advise government that it's not about agriculture per se. We have to look at other things that support the agriculture sector. For example, we have a lot of people who read geography, some geology, and stuff like that. We need to have a database of all types of soil and stuff like that, so that we can use these computers to advise us as to where to plant, what to plant, if we understand a particular plant characteristics, making it easy. We can also integrate based on rates of farming, movement of people in a geographical area, and today it's easy to know how people are moving based on mobile phone characteristics. If you have a lot of mobile phone hooked up onto a base station, and you realize these mobile phones move within a network in a particular way, then you can know the kind of, and you have Ghana card, so you can know the kind of people that are moving within these geographical areas and the kind of activities that they do. So if it is agriculture and then they produce heavy food, these data sets within the system should inform Ministry of Transport as to what kind of road they can construct in order to accommodate heavy trucks and other things that transport food, so that they will not do the road and it's a short time, it will get spoiled. So other data sets can be used to guide farming. And also within the banking sector, based on how you look at the performance of production of certain things, you can now find and assist certain approaches of farming within certain areas, knowing very well that when you give out the loans, you are going to get your money back. So connectivity of these data sets and stuff like that help drive growth. And also it can inform a bank where to set up what kind of branch and stuff like that. And also based on movement of people within networks and stuff like that, you can draw that degree of intelligence and use to inform which business can grow or wherever, because you know the characteristics of people that are moving and what they are doing. So, in order not to take much time, data itself is very useful. Either active data within the space of agriculture or passive data that doesn't have any direct link, all can come together to support this growth. Thank you.
Thank you. I like that. So, I mean, just briefly, I mean, when you say you use computer to grow these plants, what do you mean? How do you do that?
Okay, so for example, where we are, we have satellite technology out there that can, based on the movement of the clouds, can tell you that it will rain here or it will not rain here. And you can also forecast the humidity and other things of the environment in which you are farming. So if the computers are connected and they are supposed to water the plants and you are doing it in open space, you will know that you don't need to water the plants during that time because it's going to rain. And based on the nature of rain that is coming to fall, you can estimate the effect even on the plant. And then when you put water, based on the soil you are using, when you put water at the top, you can, based on the amount of water, you can see the flow and how the soil soaks the water in terms of how it moves through the system. You can also further use computers to model this. So when it's about to rain, you can estimate how much effect even on the rain that will be on the side of the roots in terms of draining down the manure. Because the plant doesn't like too much water. You cannot give a particular plant water beyond what it can take. Sure. So you have to understand the nature of the soil, amount of rain that is coming, and also even the amount of water you have to give to these plants. And at the same time, in terms of resources that are around the plant. So you have sensors there in the soil that gives you this information from the soil, and also information around the soil. Now, somebody will be like, do you have to deploy these sensors across? No. You can deploy the sensors at just very few locations and assume that the rest have the same characteristics. So the computer used that sample set in order to control the rest.
Okay.
Yes, so those approaches can be used even in rural sectors. And we have edge computing. So you don't necessarily need to depend on cloud resources or internet in order to get some of these things working. Based on edge computing, the computers at the edge can reason and perform certain activities on their own. We don't have so much connected systems, but if we were to have a lot of connected systems where information okay, so let me look at it from the national security within the health sector and apply it to the agriculture for you. So if somebody visits a particular hospital and they are reporting or they are being diagnosed of certain things, maybe it's common in a particular region and it's common in another region also, maybe in a day, have about 10 of those reports, the following day, 30, then there should be a surveillance alarm that no, something is happening. Maybe either food poisoning or whatever. There have been situations where people even have food poisoning, or maybe something may be happening. It triggers the system. We need such systems also within the agriculture sector. Maybe somebody reports an armyworm somewhere, another person reports whatever. Then that signal the system for us to kind of use that approach. Birds also having flu or whatever. Somebody reported it, the extension officer keying into the system, another one. The national security see these reports, or the agriculture surveillance system see this report, and quickly they can act. So computers can guide us in so many ways using these data sets in order to make informed decisions. Or another person also is using a particular farming approach that you realize that the yield is higher and kind of a thing. And you can see this from the data based on the output of the person. Then that data set inform you that we can now go and study how this person is going about this particular farming before he's getting this yield, and we can share that knowledge with others. And then they can benefit from it. Yeah.
Thank you very, very much. A huge round of applause for him. So there's a lot that can be done. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm saying, well, I should get you to my farm. We can do a lot of things together. But let's now move to Alberta Nanai-Chakosa, who will be telling us more about food policy and governance for sustainable food systems. Let's give her a round of applause as she starts her presentation.
Hello. Good morning. Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
We are talking about food. And I think we started, we didn't pray, but we started eating.
Oh, yes. We prayed individually.
Anyway, I think the conversation on food is never ending. And it's because it's basically our livelihood. It's basically how we can survive as human beings. But what are the policies governing it? And basically, what are our systems? What are the approaches? What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? And how can we further build it or enhance it? Food is food, and governance and policy also basically complement it to ensure that we can advance it, to ensure that we can sustain it through diverse approaches. And I think that the conversation is global, and approaches may be similar, but also differ. In Ghana, I think AgriHouse Foundation has been working across the 16 regions for a while now. And what do we see? We see the energies of farmers who are very passionate and very committed to do more if there are resources. We see the youth who keep demonstrating beyond reasonable doubts that if given the platform, if mentored, if they have the right mindset, if the education on agriculture and its opportunities are available, they should be able to contribute to the future of food. And today I'm happy we have most of our youth here because AgriHouse Foundation is working on our annual boot camp, which brings agri-colleges and farm institutes together. So at the back end, you see the students from Kwada, Soda, Mango, Fair River, Aswanzi, Ejura, all here for the boot camp. And we believe that this is also a right representation for them if we want to look at the future of food and where the place or the position that they play or the role they can play to contribute to development or to contribute to sustainability. So across the country, realize that, we are talking about sustainability always. It's not like we don't even know. Everybody here is talking about different approaches. So we know what we need to do. We know how we can feed ourselves. We know the localized approaches that we can use to enhance our growth and to ensure that the future of food is secured. But sometimes I think that though we know, like he passionately spoke, there are also human factors that hinders growth. There is issue with possibly leadership and how, and even ourselves, and how we could also be very committed. We see what is happening in Burkina and some of the structures that they are even building. I'll use the North as an example and some of the farmers that we are working with. When you go now, you are not even getting the share nuts to purchase because they are all being exported in each raw state. And here we are talking about the future of food. What is the role of government to ensure that there are benchmarks to these issues that are pending? You go to an area like Yendi, you realize that the women are producing more sesame, but where are the processing machinery or equipment that they can use to even scale up and then export? Because some of them have been able to export to Kenya, and you realize that there are markets. It's not bad for us to be farming in small sizes. That's what we've been used to. But if the necessary resources and tools are available, I believe that we'll be able to ensure that the future is sustained. Now, I'm happy that our traditional leaders are here. And they are also form the part when it comes to governance. If you go to the regions, they are basically the heads or the leaders within the community. How governments or partners also working with them to ensure that there is some level of sustainability. Let's take Wale Wale as an example. They are producing a lot of watermelon. And it's only recently that a processing factory is being put there. Assuming that we approach our agriculture, we have 16 regions, we have over 256 districts, and then we have about over 160,000 communities. Assuming that we look at what can do best in every region and we focus on it, I believe that we can grow and we can sustain the future of food. But even in the last 38 years, Ghana hasn't had any agric census. So there is data very scanty. There is no research, or research is done, but the documents are left and then nothing is done with it. So we sometimes invest in it, we sometimes not invest in it. So we end up having partners on board or international donors, or we sign bilateral agreements where the upper hand goes to the party that is investing. But if we come back to our regions, for instance, what can we do best in Ashanti region? Can we look at what can grow best? And then, or even when it comes to animal production, which is an area that is often neglected, what can we do to ensure that the conversation on livestock is also in tandem with crop sector? If we look at each region and what can be produced, then we can look at how we can industrialize it and then create jobs. Because we can't talk about sustainability and leave out job creation. If we focus on Ashanti region, this is what we can do, grow there. This is what can do best there. What do we need? Can we then work on our roads? Can we then work on our markets? Can we then see how we can export? Then we are building communities or regions that are stronger, that are resilient, that can be sustainable, and that we can have our farmers well-sustained and the practices also well-sustained. So we could be talking about applications like Prof said. We could talk about so many things. But I believe it's time we look at the structures, what can do best in each region, and we take it one at a time, and then we can further develop our country one at a time. It can take time, but that is how Brazil did it. If you look at also the structure of even Brazil and what we import to Ghana is different, or what they import to Africa is different from what they even consume within their country. So theirs is built such that, or from the little I know, theirs is built such that some of the states are basically like set up to export or to grow to export, while some also are set up to be consumed within the country, which comes to what we are consuming, and this can really affect our future or affect our health and affect our systems. Now, let's also look at our educational systems. We have Ohawa Agri College here, Damango Agri College. We are talking about the future of food, and education can be missing most of the times. What innovation, these young ones have great innovations. How do we bring them to the table to also contribute to such conversations if you are talking about food sustainability? I believe they play a critical role, and they are very, very key. Ohawo had, like, I will use the case of Ohawo or some of the schools. Most of them are not having any demonstration centers again. All the lands that they use for demonstration are now being used for real estate. And those that they are even using for their laboratories have been turned to dormitories. And this is a very stark state, and then we are talking about the future of food. The government introduces policies. Over the years, we've heard about planting for food and jobs, Operation Feed Yourself, Feed Ghana, and all that. And then it doesn't go with any advocacy. So we hear it once, and that is it. And then we don't even know when it's going to be implemented. Rearing for food and jobs like this, very brilliant concept, but got just missing within the system. Now, all these policies, I believe if they go with advocacy and it gets to the grassroots for the people who are the direct implementers or beneficiaries, we should be able to get somewhere. Because if you look at all these Operation Feed Yourself, planting for food and jobs, and all these that feed Ghana, they all boil under three areas: increasing productivity, and also decreasing imports, and also creating jobs. And where are we with this? How is advocacy complementing all these things? How is education complementing all these things? How long are we going to talk? We have, sometimes there is budget allocation, and then there's a percentage maybe to the agri sector. Out of this 100% that has been allocated, realize that some of this has also come from donors. If it becomes like that, maybe the government will put in 30% and donors also put 70%. So if the donor hasn't added up, then it means we are at a standstill. We are just stuck like that. Now, if they also add up, what is it used for? Realize that the administrative budget is plenty. You go to a place and then a lot of V8 is packed for a project. A lot of pickups are packed. So I believe the issue of sustainability and the future of food is safe in our hands. But what practices, what approaches, what can we do? What are we doing now? And how can we really advance it if we really desire to? We have the people, we have the men, we have everything. But then we always talk about it. I think I'll talk about this declaration. I think it's a Malipo Declaration in 2003, which also said that every African country or every country should dedicate about 10% to agri development. Till date, we've not been able to do that. So the issue of sustainability is a full cycle. What is the role of our farmers? Where are they now? Do they have the needed resources? Do we even have a data of what can grow best in an area that we can really focus on it? The role of our queen mothers, of our chiefs. We giving out the lands all for galamsey. Now some of our farmers are even trading their lands for galamsey because it does better for them. So they can trade it for like 6 months and get to about 70,000 Ghana cedis, and then they wait. And now they have to now wait to work on the land again, which is a big issue. I spoke about share. I think just 3-4 years ago, share at 25 kg was just 750. Now, share at 25 kg is 8,000 Ghana cedis.
Wow.
So our situation is very sad. Very sad. And so if you're talking about the future of food, I think that advocacy plays a role. discipline, leadership plays a critical role. Continuity. A government comes with a sound policy and you realize that it's manifesto driven, because the minute they go, oh, it's not good, let's abolish it, let's do another one. So there is no continuity. So how can we talk about sustainability when there is no continuity? So our states can do better. I believe that, Africa is passionate. We can feed ourselves, really. But our situation is, I think it's more of mindsets. And that is really hindering us. So we can have these conversations over and over again. If we don't change our mindset, if we don't use project money to buy only cars and then we sit up and do something, I believe we can be talking about this and it will not really go anywhere. But I believe there are solutions, and we know the solutions.
Okay.
And the solutions lies in primarily also having the right mindset to approach these issues. This is a sure way that we can build and sustain the future of food.
Thank you so much, Alberta Anecha Akosa, who is food policy, who is with the Agri-House Foundation, and she's been speaking on food policy and governance for sustainable food systems. Great. So I promised that I wasn't going to ask a lot of questions, and I'll stick to the promise. So it's now the turn of those of you who are in here with us, the participants. Please, if you have a question, just show by hand. We'll get a microphone to you, and once we get a microphone to you, you'd be able to ask your questions. I think we'll pick 3 questions at a time, and then we'll get to the panelists. We have some 20 minutes to go. Please make your questions brief. One question, so that more people can ask questions. I beg you, one question. If you want to make a comment, please make it brief so that others can also have the opportunity. Please, let's go. You tell us your name, the institution you're coming from, and then you go ahead with your question or comment. One question, brief comments. Thank you very much. Okay, so where are we starting from? Please, let's go ahead. And let me say that we are live on the Joy News channel. We're also live on Joy 99.7 FM. Please go ahead. Are we okay? Okay, okay.
Thank you very much.
Great.
My name is Eric Amponsa-Boatin. I work with PKF. We are trying to see how we'll be able to sustain agriculture. But I believe that food inflation is a very big issue. Because you see, at the end of the day, your income that you can even save and you can invest, which will help in the growth of our nation, is always dropping. Let me give just one example. I was taking my daughter to school in Cape Coast, and then we made a stopover at Winneba. And I asked, oh, how much is the food? And they said, oh, 15 cedis for the fufu. We start from 15. I said, okay, give me 15. And I asked my girl, how much can you also? He said, oh, Daddy, also give me 15. And when they brought the food, she said, Daddy, no, this food, I can even take 20. What I'm trying to say is that if I have a family of, let's say, 4 or 5, virtually I'll be spending all my salary. So we cannot invest. And that is a very serious thing. I'm wondering how we'll be able to sustain what? The galamsey, the corruption. No, we have a long way to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think there's a hand. Okay.
All right. My name is Michael Opuni-Frimpong. I work with Agri-House. My question goes to Prof. when he spoke about...
There are 2 professors here, so...
Okay, is it Prof. Achu?
Okay.
When he spoke about the absentee farming.
Okay.
We have a lot of people who would want to get into agriculture. We have a lot of people doing other stuff. But he seemed to dismiss absentee farming. And I know about contract farming and all the rest. Is there a way out?
Okay. Thank you very much. I think there's a hand there. Yes, please get to him.
Thank you. My name is Najustice from Ijra Agricultural College and Mechanization Center. I would concur with what Mrs. Alberta made mention, that we need to work on our mindset when it comes to agriculture. And then Professor Achu was also mentioning absentee farming, whereas we have Prof. Kese also talking about the internet, right? So I believe that in Ghana, we have to start thinking about working smart and not working hard. And even if you want to work smart, you need to work harder to be smart enough. So my question goes like this: how do we then change the mindsets of the individuals? I'm surrounded by a lot of youth, so I would like to leverage on that and then have an impact on the friends around me, and also begin from there. My friends can also impact on the others, how we change our mindset with regards to agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, just that table. Oh, you could have just given it to them. Yes, let's just finish that table. We'll come back around again for the next set of questions. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. My name is Ben Yano from Social Enterprise Ghana. So I'm just following the conversation. And if you see, the conversation is on the supply side of food. And even if you see the policies that we have said, over the years, it has always been looking at the farmer, the supply side. We have never thought about, what about the demand side of food? We are being told that worldwide, 12 species of plants contribute to our food, and 5 animal species are the one. So can we now think that in the future, will the consumers of this food change their diets? Are we now looking at a time where food wastage will not be there, where because we are talking about precision, then what I need as a person, can that be measured and given to me so that there is no wastage of food?
Okay.
And lastly, on the question of policy.
Question.
Just on policy.
One question. So let's give it to the next person. We beg you, so that we can have more people asking questions. Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Edmond. Madam Alberta, thanks for the input. Based on your experience with schools and in the areas that you go to, based on the problems that you've identified, what do you think should be the recommendation to maybe Ministry of Education or the Ministry of Agric to be able to help change the conditions or the situation that you've seen in the various academic institutions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let's get to the panelists for answers. Joe Paddy, I see you. I'll get back to you. Yes, Professor Ashu, there was a question for you on the absentee farmer, and then there's another one about mindset and a recommendation to the Ministry of Agric and schools.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you. I'm going to give a case using myself, an example, then tell you the way out. I am fully employed in Accra here. I said, okay, I want to farm. Where do I get the money? Funding for agric business in this country is very limited. I was shocked to know that Stanbic Bank, so much downward, they fund agriculture even than some of the banks that have been created with that particular mandate. Stanbic, thumbs up. So I decided to use my own resources. So, sorry, the thing was like this. So it basically means that initially you just outlay capital into the farm, you don't get anything, right? So I was thinking at least if it gets to a point, then I begin to get a bit of some kind of cash inflows from the farming, then I would. So what I did is that, okay, let me go into a type of farming where my presence would be so much needed there. So I decided to go into coconut farming. So into the coconut farming, it will surprise you to know, you go there, buy land, you prepare everything, then you plant. Do you know even in your absence, people will begin to steal the planted coconut seedlings? One, I even told some of them that, oh, you know what, boss, you don't steal it. You wait. When it grows and is fruiting, you can steal. Do you see that? Now, so what is now the way out here? people are now using technology where you can monitor everything using a cloud-based system, like what Prof is saying. Now, do we have resources to be able to deploy that? Yes, it depends. For me, the amount of acreage I want to go into, in fact, I've bought over almost 100 acres. At that level, it will be very difficult for me to use technology, looking at the cost involved. So for me, this is the way I do advise. What you can basically do is that the 3 crops at times initially may be a bit manageable than the crops like vegetables. For vegetables, they are very short term. Then almost every other day or every 3 days, you can go inward and then harvest. So I'll advise you, if you want to go into 3 crops, one is absentee, at least we can be able to moderate it a bit. So even if it's weekly, if you can only go there once, fine. But other than that, what I have experienced, you go to these villages, you think the people are so kind, you are kind with them, all right. You know what they'll do to you first? They will bring you down to their level. Then they'll use experience to beat you. So what I've realized that if you know you can't make them, based upon my experience, it may be, people may argue about it. I would advise at least once in a week. If you can't do that, my brother, save your money.
Thank you very much, Professor True. There's a question, yes, Alberta, there were questions for you. Yeah.
Hello. Okay, so I think the question was on how do we change our mindsets.
Exactly.
Right? I believe that we can look at how, again, let's relate it to the context and the reason why we are here. We're looking at the future of food, right? And changing our mindsets also means also really understanding the whole sector and how we could play a role to ensure that the future is sustained. Now, in understanding the sector, we have to know that we have from food to the table and what are the processes and what we can do as youth to play a role. Can we all be farmers? Yes and no. But maybe we can look at how we could add value into it, because now we are exporting more of the raw materials. So how do we look at adding value? How do we bring our farmers together, maybe get it from them and add value to it by processing it? So that can be a niche that you can create for yourself as a beginner agribusiness. We can also look at the input dealership sector. As I indicated, we have Ghana, we have over 160,000 plus communities. And out of these communities, I mean, we are looking at access to inputs, either organic fertilizer or crop nutrition or crop protection. We are looking at Wellington boots. We are looking at knapsacks and all that. How accessible are these things to farmers when we are talking about building a sustainable farming community? It's also an area that you could look at, innovatively look at in having a role there, and that is really understanding that there is a role to play within the input dealer shop, input dealer business. You can build a career path there, or you could do something to change the community. We can also look at mechanization, machinery, and equipment, which is also lacking within most of our communities. And we are talking about sustainable farming and how we can advance it. We don't have the machinery, we don't have the resources, even in most of our communities. So that is how maybe another role that we can consider to play. We can also look at, policies and or advocacy, and how you can also play a role there. So the chain is wide, and like we've been talking about, you can only have a voice or have a place if you understand the whole value. And then, so that is really a mindset for me. And also to the gentleman who asked about what we can do within the ministries or whatever. I think that, we have more raw materials within the country, but we export more, though there is no data on it. I believe that for the Ministry of Agriculture, we can look at how we could produce in volumes and in value. And then if you're able to produce in volume and in value, we can possibly add some value to it and export. Because sometimes we also tend to export, or Ghana exports, though we don't have clear data on it. But then it's not sustainable. other people export to our country and it's more sustained because they are producing in volumes. Sometimes we're able to just do 1 container, 2 containers, and then agreements are cancelled because we are not able to sustain it. So I think the approach is what can be produced in the region, like indicated before, and how can we focus on it, put in all our energies, and build an industry out of it in these regions. I believe we are able to do that. Even migration from our communities will even reduce. And then the career and other things will also go down, though they are also needed. So I think that the education ministry and all that, I think it's time that once in a while they flash within the schools and see what is happening. Because we bring them, this is the 8th year we have been bringing them. So, I mean, we have a lot of discussions, we had a lot of conversations. And we try for policymakers to even meet with them sometimes. Sometimes it's yes, sometimes it's no.
Okay.
But the real issues are in the grounds, within the regions, within our schools, within our communities. And then if you are looking at sustainable practices to build a sustainable future that will influence the future of food, then our institutions are very critical. And so at least occasional visits, these are very, very little things. These are not very technical things, but they are the key things that can also ensure that our future is sustained. We are looking at by 2050, yes, when maybe globally we may need to feed about 10 billion people. Where does Ghana sit within this?
Okay.
And that is the question we have to start asking ourselves.
Thank you very much. Prof, I'll get back to you. Let me just pick the last batch of questions. So let's get a microphone to Joseph Paddy here. Let's get a microphone to him. Then we come here, and then there, and then we are done. Okay.
Please, good morning to everyone.
Good morning.
Please, I'm very happy to be given this opportunity. My name is Nadia Salim, a student of Kumasi Institute of Tropical Agriculture. My question is that, per all you people said, we realize that already we are facing the challenges. All these challenges you mentioned, already we are in it. And then we are looking at the future, how to curtail these problems. And we are the future here. We are those who are going to change those problems we are facing. But then we need your support. What we are doing today in the future to curtail this problem. So in most of the agri-colleges, they don't have these machineries and then other things, the knowledge. Those things we will learn to get the knowledge to change whole of this. So my question is that, what are you people expecting from we, the future agriculturists, in this situation? And what are you doing for us to change that? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's get to this table. Let's come here. Let's come here. Let's come here. Let's move to this table. Let's move to this table. We've picked a lot of questions from that table. Let's move to this table. Yes, let's come here. Yeah.
Thank you. Prof was talking about organic farming, and he made mention of...
Please, you didn't tell us your name.
Oh, sorry, my name is Joseph Paddy from Guta. Prof was talking about organic farming, and he made mention of cow dung. But we know in recent time, the cows also depends on grasses, right? And then almost all the grasses we find now, mercury evaporates into the air, and it stays there for almost 5 years. So all the grasses the cows are chewing also have some mercury in them, lead. So they produce cow dung that also has some lead in them. So if you are asking us to go to organic, depending on cow dung, how do we do that? Because we can see a component of lead in those cow dungs. And then two,
One question,
it's the same line.
Please, let's move to the next person.
Okay.
There are a lot of questions. Thank you very much, Joseph. I see a hand here.
Sorry, my name is Suleiman Mustafa. My question is, Professor, to Professor Achu. What are some of the policy changes do you think we can implement to support the development of sustainable agriculture in Ghana? And maybe, Weston, if I may add, how do we situate all these broader conversations of sustainable agriculture to the emergence of GMOs?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So let's get to this table.
All right, thank you. I'm Honorable Emmanuel Kwekubuam, Pro-East, Member of Parliament. I happen to be in the hinterland where agriculture is very paramount. We have women groups in farming, and mostly we do pepper when it comes to the vegetable side. That is the aspect I want to talk about because we have a lot of women, about 3,000, 5,000 women groups in such farming. And it will interest you to know that with this farming, they woke up as early as 4 a.m., get the pepper on fire. So this dry pepper you see out there, it takes a long chain to be able to be cooked, dried, for you to see the dry pepper you see, either pepper powder or whatever. That is the stage it goes through. And we are looking at sustainable practices. The question is, the youth coming today are not interested in such systems. They don't have that interest. Why should they go into farming, wake up as that early, and put pepper on fire, wait for pepper to cook, dry it, wait for the sun, at the mercy of the weather? And today, climate change, you know how inevitable you cannot do away with that. So, critically, this meeting, we want to look at the way forward. As a bank, as a communication platform, what can we communicate? What can we tell the youth coming with regards to sustainable practices in such farming? And that is the key area I want to focus on.
Thank you very much, Honorable. I think we can pick the last question. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Solomon. I'm a hotelier, and I'm happy to be here. My question is simple. Now, in the background of the rising food inflation in Ghana, the importation of poultry product to the ratio of 1:4, which means that we consume 1/4 of